This is Embrace Your Inner Boldness, a podcast about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. I'm Melissa Henning Frank, coach, guide, and founder of Becoming Bold. I help you strip away the conditioning, reclaim your voice, and rise into the power that's always been yours. Let's get right to it. Hello, and welcome back to the show. Thanks for tuning in. Let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered how much of the way you see the world comes from your own lived experiences? Like, if you had been born into a totally different family, in a totally different environment, how different would your beliefs and perceptions be today? I'm talking about the absolutes when it comes to what you've been taught to believe. Those super firm opinions that you have about how others live and what they do or don't do. Where did all of that come from? And how can you be so sure that your beliefs and opinions are right? How do we get to a point where we think everyone else who has different beliefs and opinions are in the wrong? Today, we're diving into how perception and reality play together, how your unconscious beliefs are shaped by your story, and why what feels so true to you might not be true at all for someone else. You've heard the phrase, perception is reality, but is it really? Our perception isn't reality, it's more of a filter, and that filter is stitched together from every single thing you've lived through. So if you grew up in a home where you had to be on high alert all the time, for example, you're probably more likely to scan for danger in every room you walk into. If you grew up feeling safe, you might not even notice the little things that trigger someone else. And that's why two people can look at the same situation, the same leader, even the same family dinner, and come away with completely different truths. We're not just reacting to the event, we're reacting through our lenses. And most of the time this happens in a split second, and we're running on automatic pilot without much intention at all, just coasting, judging, reacting, and moving on. Let's bring this home. One partner walks in the door and maybe they don't say too much, and one person might perceive, oh, they're upset with me. Another might perceive, oh, they're just tired. Same reality, but two very different evenings ahead. What these two don't realize is their perceptions are probably based on their past relationships and experiences with their mother and or father, which they're projecting onto their current partner. And at work, let's say your boss gives you a piece of feedback. One person hears, oh, cool, they believe in my growth. And another hears, oh my gosh, I'm failing. That perception changes whether you walk out of that meeting feeling motivated or crushed. And this perception has been built by each person's lived experiences with leaders of their past and whether or not feedback is a familiar thing or not. And in our cities, we might see a person on the street asking for help. One person perceives, they're lazy, why don't they just get a job? Another person perceives, they're struggling just like I could if life turned out differently. And that one perception changes how we treat another human being. Even in grocery stores, we judge who has more in their cart, what they have in their cart, who's using WIC or food stamps, who's letting their kid run around. But that's not reality, it's our story layered over theirs. We get worked up over the person who doesn't return their cart to the proper place, even though we have zero clue what's going on in that person's life. There's always so much more to the story, and we're making split-second judgments with zero information. And in churches, perceptions of who belongs, who's holy enough, who's an outsider, who's actually drawing those lines, and how exactly are they drawn? It's human perception filtered by our own beliefs and experiences. Our programming in this area is deeper than many people realize, and it's showing up in the disagreements and the conflicts we're all seeing today. Let's talk about distance and how that pertains to our ability to empathize. When things are far away from us, we often really minimize them. Let's think about the wars overseas, or a disaster across the country, or a tragedy in a community that we're not connected to. If it's not close to us, we can scroll past, shake our heads, feel sad for a minute, and then move on. That distance allows us to dehumanize, to forget that these are real people with families and pain just like ours. But if it happened to our neighbor or our cousin or our child, it would feel urgent and unbearable, and we'd be appalled if anyone around us wasn't reacting as such. The fact is, our perception tells us what matters most to us. But just because something feels less important doesn't mean it is less important. Understanding perception can really help us in our current political climate. Let's talk about politics through the lens of experience. Politics seems to feel really deeply personal, and it's not just about laws on paper, it's about lived reality. So for example, if someone grew up with abuse or survived sexual assault, their perception of men in power or people in power and their view on laws about safety, their gut reaction to political debates, those things are rooted in their own survival study. And another person who didn't live that reality might not understand why certain issues feel like life and death. But again, it's not just about right or wrong. It's about recognizing that people's political stances are often shaped by wounds, by history, and by what they've had to survive. So the big message here is this. What we think is true isn't always true. It's true for us because of our filters, our stories, and our lived experience. But that doesn't make it the only truth. Perception is powerful, but it's not permanent. And the bold move is to start questioning it. So here are some questions that I want you to sit with this week. When was the last time I assumed something about someone without knowing their story? What experiences from my childhood are still shaping how I see people, work, relationships, or even politics today? Where am I dehumanizing or dismissing something just because it feels far away from me? How do I respond differently when something happens close to home versus something happening far away? What's one perception I'm holding on to that might not actually be true, and what might shift if I let it go? Your perception is not the reality. It's your reality. And when you start to notice that difference, you open the door to empathy, to curiosity, and to boldness. All right, bold souls, that's today's episode. If this hit home for you, share it with someone you love who might need the reminder that their reality isn't the only reality. And remember, you always have the power to question your lens, to choose a new one, and to live boldly. If you're on my email list, you'll get this week's bonus materials as well as a full library of goodies in our exclusive password-protected webpage. You can sign up by going to the link in the show description or by visiting my social media platforms, which you can also access through the link in the show description. If you're hearing this at the time of recording, which happens to be September of 2025, and if you're a woman or you know someone who is, you gotta follow me to stay in tune with something really big happening later this year. It's not going to play nice with your comfort zone, and I bet you're up for that challenge. I can feel it, and I think you can too. So until next time, please be kind to your mind. That's it for today's episode of Embrace Your Inner Boldness. If this stirred something in you, don't let it fade. Screenshot this episode, tag me at Becoming Bold LLC, and share it with someone else who's ready to rise. And hey, if you haven't already, take a second to subscribe, rate, and review the show. That's how we spread the boldness and keep this movement growing. Whatever came up for you today, feel the fear and do it anyway. You don't need to wait for perfect timing or permission. You are powerful. You are ready. And remember, the only limit to your boldness is the one you set for yourself. Until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and keep becoming you.